And the team that gets me excited, Manchester United, Manchester United.
And Best, here's the record, there it is. Georgie Best sets a new scoring record for Manchester United.
He was such an unbelievably gifted player. He had a quality and he had a control that really was unparalleled, really.
This man is a genius.
He seemed to make the ball do what he wanted to do. In all my experience in football, I have never seen a player who could beat a man or men so close and in so many ways.
Hello, we're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Just about, I think. It's getting late in the day now.
Yeah, we've first time that we've filmed something in the evening.
Because it's been too hot in the studio.
We've had a
today.
lovely dinner. Mom's put us a lovely dinner on.
Yeah.
So we're here. So we're a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dad forgot where he was there for a second. So yeah. Anyway, here we are. Hello. This is the George Best special. Bestie there, and look at the T-shirt as well. Bestie, yeah. Banksy, superb. But where'd you start?
Well, I'll tell you where you start, son.
All right, then you tell me.
Well, it was in him definitely from he was born. Watching him as a toddler, he always had the ball at his toe, and of course I never really expected him to reach the heights he has reached. I thought it was just football like any other child. When he went to the grammar school, he had the brains to, I suppose, go further, as you might say, but because they didn't play football, that wasn't part of his life. Football was his life, and that's what he wanted.
Well, he was fascinated by a ball, but instinctively he seemed to know that it was meant to kick, whatever size, whatever colour, and even if it had been a rugby ball, he would still have kicked it. I took photographs of him using an old Kodak box camera. 15, 16 months of age he would have been. And he just seemed so natural in the photographs. He had the balance, concentration, head down over the ball. And then, of course, as a few years went by, I started to encourage him to kick with the other foot. He looked at me and I said, kick with the other foot. And he can't, but then I was able to show him, right, left, right, things like that. And I just said to him, well, if you want to be a footballer, that's what you have to do. We had that green area at the end of my street, and you would have seen him, even on wet days, up and down that field, right foot, left foot, juggling, jinking, and all. And he did that all on his own, just practice, practice, practice. So no matter how good he was, he seemed to want to get better. And as I always say, he was born with a good name.
The genius that is George Best. Has there ever been a player who combines the courage, the flair, the speed and the finish that George Best brought all together in one match last night? Is this then the finest player in the world today?
Oh.
And then we go into the 60s, and this new lad came along from Ireland. And being a United supporter, I was fascinated by him. And who wouldn't be? Georgie Best. What a player. Well, I mean, how many times do we say what a player?
Yeah, what a player. But he is.
But what a player.
What a player. Even Pele said that he was the best.
Yeah.
George Best is the best.
He's got a suitable name, hasn't
he? Yes. Incredible.
What a player.
But he is. Unbelievable.
He was the best player in the world.
A legend, George Best.
I'd never seen anything like him. Just sensational.
He loved to train, he loved to play, he loved to show off.
He could turn a game on a dime.
Well, I was born with something, and I didn't have to work very hard at it.
But I wanted to be Georgie Best.
Well, I think like everybody else did.
Yeah. But I really wanted to be like Georgie
right,
Best.
okay. Yes.
But I wasn't as good looking as him. I wasn't Irish. But I was a better player.
Flying winger, he was flying fullback.
Well,
it's just the Georgie Best, the talent. You just cannot describe it, can you? It's
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. It's more than that though. But when you look at the family photos of the early photos that Dickie Best and his wife had of George Best when he was a toddler. They said he had a ball at his feet as soon as he started to walk.
Yeah.
But if you look at them pictures, I'll put the pictures up. He looks like this. He's in that mode. He's doing it. He's already dropping his shoulder and he's got the balance. And he's like 12, 13 months old. Absolutely incredible. And he said, I think one of his books I read, he used to practice with the tennis ball when he was little, whacking it against the curb and then controlling it, knocking it against the doors and the handles and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Just natural, wasn't it?
Well, I used to do that, but I wasn't the Georgie Best.
Yeah, I know. You had all the neighbours running after you, didn't you? Because you kept knocking the door knockers and knocking all the doors. So they used to run down the street after you, didn't they?
No.
They did.
Yeah, but we were always playing with a tennis ball.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, that's why kids today don't, do they?
No, they don't know what a tennis ball is.
They don't know what it's all about, do they?
Yeah.
No, aye.
We were hard.
But you was happy, lad.
Oh, we were happy.
He was happy, lad. And George was happy. But imagine, so brought up in Belfast, he's playing on the Craigie estate. I think his family protected him from what was going on outside. So I think he was just on the estate, didn't really go anywhere else. And they just played football. There was like loads of them there. And they reckon that like people around the estate used to come down and watch the games. There's like big crowds and stuff. Yeah. And he was there like younger lad playing with the older lads. And they could see it, couldn't they?
George and I first met at the Craigie ground here when we were approximately 11 years of age. It was quite possible for them to get sort of 200 or 300 people from the estate come out and watch the game. And we soon noticed they had one boy by the name we all know now of George Best, who sort of had particular talent. And when he received the ball, these 200-300 people sort of got very, very excited and obviously knew a lot more about him than what we did.
What was his name? Was it Bob Bishop, the scout in Ireland?
Yeah.
He was the one when I think in Northern Ireland. And it was, Bob Bishop, he spotted him. And he rang Sir Matt and he said, I think I found you a genius. And he went wrong there, was he?
Bob Bishop's job was to find footballers. He thought he'd seen everything until he clapped eyes on George Best.
Down in the shipyard, this fella Riverter used to tell me about this fella George Best. They said, Bob, this man is magnificent, he's a man among men. Well, after that, I decided he was one of the best boys I'd ever seen.
But he came across when he was 15 for a trial with another player. I think his name was Eric McMordy, I think he was, who ended up playing for Middlesbrough. So pretty incredible, really.
Yeah.
So, and Northern Ireland as well. But they didn't like it, did they? I think they came back within a day. They came back home. So they just didn't overawed with it all. Imagine it, can't
Just young lads,
15 years old, yeah.
in a totally different environment.
Yeah.
Esther, we were a little bit overawed, to say the least, to be with sort of Bobby Charlton and Dennis Law. It's a long way from the Craigie estate to sort of Old Trafford, you know, and I'm afraid we just couldn't settle, and we decided that we would come home perhaps too quick.
He had got homesick, and the fact that, like any other youngster that age, that was acceptable and understandable. I do know for another year at least, he still felt a bit homesick.
When a boy's so young, but this boy has got everything to make a great player. And some little time ago, Tom Finney thought he was the best young player he's seen for many years, and I agree with him.
The football. There were fears that he may have been too small to make it as a professional. But that didn't stop Bob Bishop, the Manchester United scout, who called Matt Busby to tell him he'd found a genius.
Bob Bishop, the scout for Manchester United, virtually turned up on our doorstep one day and asked if I'd like to go to Manchester United, and it was as simple as that. I was playing football at the top of the street when it happened, so my parents called me down and explained to me. And, I mean, I was in the daze, obviously. I dashed out of the house, straight back up to the game that was going on at the top of the street, and just ran on and told all my friends I was going to play for Manchester United. That was it, you know, there was no trial period, no signing on, it was all done.
It wasn't quite as simple as that for the 15-year-old boy from Belfast. He was offered a 2-week trial and travelled across the Irish Sea with another youngster, Eric McMordy, to board with Mrs. Fullaway in Manchester. But the two kids were overawed by the club and the city and ran back to Belfast at the earliest opportunity. George, though, came back and settled into life in Manchester, writing letters back home to Belfast about his adventures with Manchester United stars.
Harry was like typical, you know, lunatic goalkeeper. You know, you daren't score against him, whether it was in practice or in you know, in a proper game. And Harry was no different.
I had been at the top as a player, and I was playing in a five-a-side with small goals against a bunch of young kids, 15 years of age. And this kid came up and put the ball past me, and I didn't know what had happened. And I thought, you've slipped a bit. And he did it again.
I didn't know at the time, but he's thinking, you know, this cheeky little kid, you know, I'll get him next time. Anyway, it happened 2 or 3 times.
And he did it the third time, and I said, son, you do that again, I'll break your neck.
If I hadn't been Irish, I think he'd have probably buried me then and there. And he talked about it in later years. And it was, I mean, to me, it was a great compliment.
George was joined at Mrs. Fullaway's by another future United star, David Sadler, who took these early shots of the youngster who was causing so much excitement at Old Trafford.
It's one thing to say young boys are going to be good players. It's a total different thing to say that they're going to be superstars and world stars, that sort of thing. But you know, right from the start, people, I think, knew that George had got something a bit special about him.
As a 17-year-old, George broke into the Manchester United first team and scored 6 goals in his first season.
But obviously, Sir Matt knew that he couldn't let this lad go. So we got back in touch with his dad, and they got him back over.
Yeah.
And George wanted to go back. He realised that he had that chance.
Yeah.
So he did, and then look what happened.
He settled in quickly.
I mean, we'd been at Old Trafford for a year when George came over from Belfast, and he'd spent a couple of days at Old Trafford. And then he ran home. He was homesick, you know, but Joe Armstrong, the chief scout, went over there and dragged him back. And we all tried to make him, you know, forget about his homesickness, and we formed a great relationship very early on. I mean, when you go to Man United, they have a couple of players like Johnny Giles and Nobby Stiles looked after me, you know, and guided me in the right direction. And when George came over, there was me, Eamon Dunphy. His best mate was David Sadler, who looked after him because they got in the first team very early and roomed together and things like that. But we looked after George the best we could, and he certainly never forgot it. And he
made his debut at 17 years old, 1963 against West Brom. So we've got the programme as well. I'll put the picture up. So that's the programme of Bestie's debut. So Saturday the 14th of September 1963, Division 1 against West Bromwich Albion. This is a replica version, but I've got the original as well. but his name isn't in the team sheet. So it was like a last-minute decision or something by some man. You know, so, and then you got the full-back for West Brom. The two was Graham Williams. He was a Welsh international, weren't he? Graham Williams, weren't he? Yeah. I think. And Bestie 70 turned him inside out, didn't they? So I don't. They obviously won the game, United, but they turned him inside out, Williams. And I don't think he could catch him to foul him either. He couldn't catch him to foul him either.
No.
So
That's. Can I have a look at that? So that's about the time I used to go up to the Albion.
Yeah. I used to recognise some because Don Howe's playing.
Yeah, I used to go to watch Don Howe.
Yeah.
But carry on talking to the folks.
Are you going to have a little read yourself in the corner? So in the centre there, look, yeah. So
you can manage without me.
Yeah. So that's the team. You got Hare was the captain.
Yeah, Chippy Clark on the left.
Chippy Clark, that's it. You said about Chippy
Fogg,
Clark.
yeah.
Foggo, what's that? Foggo?
Foggo, yeah.
That's a funny name, that isn't it?
Cram Jones.
Yeah.
Well, Williams, yeah, and Don Howe.
Yeah, because Bobby Robson would have stopped playing then, wouldn't he? I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I doubt if I saw that game.
Well, you didn't because it was at Old Trafford.
Oh, right, yeah.
You definitely didn't see that.
Oh, it's all right. It's too late in the day. Getting too old.
Ken Foggo, native of Peebles and a Scottish schoolboy international. It's a funny name. I've never heard of that name before. But yeah, anyway, Graham Williams, Welsh international, Georgie Best, 17 years old, turned him inside out. But then I don't think Bestie played then for another few games. So Matt left him out.
Did he?
I think it got to about the Christmas time, and then I think they had a couple of dodgy results, and then he brought him in, and then he never looked back from there. I think he played like 20 odd games in that season, scored a few goals, and that was it. In from that day onwards.
And the team weren't really playing well, and I thought I was only stuck in to sort of fill a gap. And I dropped out after one game for a few months, and then I got back in again. And from then, after maybe about a dozen games, amazingly, I found it quite easy to play in the First Division. I found it easier in the First Division than I had in even the reserves or youth teams. I don't know whether they were treating me easy because I was a newcomer, but I used to find it pretty easy to do whatever I wanted on the pitch. And then I started to think, you know, it was like nothing, and I was going out enjoying it. It was like I looked forward to Saturdays, and then I never worried about it. And then I thought it was so easy, and that's when I probably started to realise, I'm going to be a professional footballer. And since then, I never thought of how good I was. My only feeling was to get better, and that's how I think about it now, just improving all the time.
He jumped from the A team one week to the first team the following week. He never played in the reserves. He just jumped and never came back. He just played on the stage at Old Trafford and was a genius straight away.
Incredible. And he scored in record, and he didn't really miss many games either through injury. That's the one thing.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
The battering he used to take.
Yeah. You look at sort of the way he got kicked and stuff, and the one classic goal that I remember is I think early 70s. I think they were playing Chelsea at Old Trafford, and Chopper Harris. I think Johnny Aston had played a beautiful ball in behind and Bestie run on it, and then Chopper Harris is coming across, and he's only going to do one thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he does do what he wanted, but Bestie stayed on his feet.
And here it is.
And split. Can he do it? He surely must.
What a goal. Fantastic.
What a goal, yeah.
Great commentary as well.
Yeah.
I think the commentary goes, and Bestie surely must. And he has. So just incredible. But yeah, he must have battered, but not to miss any games. Obviously, the only games he did miss later on is because he weren't there, because he was doing other things. Nothing to do with being injured, was it? Where's it all go wrong, George?
Yeah.
But yeah, what a guy. And Al Beetle as well, wasn't he? The fifth Beatle.
Oh, with the sombrero.
Yeah.
Where was what Heathrow was it? He came in, or
I don't know. Now they flew back into Manchester, didn't they? Manchester Airport.
Right.
They played Benfica, hadn't they, in the in the European Cup in 1965, I think it was, or 66.
He could have been a Beatle, couldn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So,
mind you, he couldn't sing and he couldn't play guitar.
Apart from that, well, some of the Beatles couldn't play the guitar before they had to do a couple of chords anyway. So, but nothing against the Beatles, fantastic legends. But
oh god, yeah.
It's true they had to learn how to play because they were in the band and they couldn't play it. Anyway, George Best, albeit coming back from Benfica. I think the story goes that hat, he got it off someone on the plane. He just put it on just before they came down the stairs.
Oh, right.
That's what it was.
Was it?
And he knew that it'd get the attention, and then that was it, wasn't it? It was all on the front cover, wasn't it? Al Beetle. And I think Matt Busby has said, like, oh God, we've got trouble from this point onwards. And that was when he was in there, winning in the spotlight, massive.
And we went to Benfica. We had taken a 3-2 lead. They were one of the great sides, probably the greatest side in Europe at that time. And we went there and we beat them 5-1. And Bestie had an absolutely magnificent game. And of course, it was the time of the Beatles as well. And he was a good-looking guy, black hair, the long hair, single. And after that game, of course, he was called, I think it was El Beatle or whatever it was, you know. And he just, if it was a weakness in him, he maybe at that time just began to be a little bit greedy. You know, sometimes he always beat 3 or 4 men, but he was trying to beat 5 or 6. So if it was a weakness, it maybe was around that time that maybe he should have passed the ball when he earlier.
Coming back in the plane, he had this sombrero, and I'm the fellow who said to him, take it off your head. Take it off your head. Great players don't need gimmicks. And the rest, leave him alone. I said, take it off your head.
But it was too late to slow George's life down. No way to control the shooting star.
Walking down the streets, you'd see then traffic stopped. People were stopping, old ladies, young ladies, older men, everybody, you know, wherever you walked down. And he just signed his autographs and carried on.
He was really causing quite a stir. But nobody really knew quite how to handle it.
My face was more in pop magazines than it was in football magazines. It really had become larger than life, and it was starting to frighten me because really, still all I wanted to do was kick a ball around on a football field.
But they beat them 5-1, didn't they, in their own backyard? And Bestie's goal. That was that's another story. So Matt Busby, his team talked for that game. So I think they won the first game 1-0 at Old Trafford. So the second leg in Benfica had never lost at home in Europe. Obviously massive, Eusebio, massive team. That team at that time was better than the one that we beat in 68. So I think that they were players were at the peak. So Matt, apparently this is how the story goes. He said, right lads, first 20 minutes, just keep it nice and tight. No, nothing extravagant, nice and tight. Let's calm the crowd down, and then we'll go from there. United were 2 up within 10 minutes or something like that, I think, because of Bestie just said, and I think Paddy Crowden said, Bestie he must not have heard what someone said, because he just went for it. And the one goal he scored, which we'll put up now, is that when the ball, I think there was a kick from Stepney, no, not Stepney, whoever the kick was, probably Greg, and I think David Hurd headed it back, and then Bestie ran from his own half, 2 touches, the ball's in the back of the net, and the pace, just like that.
Here comes Best again. What a player this boy is. He's got another. What a player. 12 minutes gone and Best surely has now finished the tie. 2-0, Manchester United lead.
He got a header as well, didn't he? And that was it.
Yeah,
incredible.
Back into this game. Trailed 3-2 from the first leg. Done with the free kick. Up goes Best. He's scored. Best has got a goal for Manchester United.
What's not often talked about now today is how much stamina he has.
Yeah.
I mean, you see players today, they have a few runs And they're puffing and blowing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that's on a, a flat pitch as well, isn't it?
Yeah, with modern science as well.
Yeah.
Diets, training.
Yeah.
Training facilities. But Georgie would make run after run.
In the mud. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And still do the skill, still beat players. And the
and
control.
still get kicked constantly.
Still get kicked constantly and tackle back as well.
And he'd lose his temper occasionally.
Yeah, he had a bit of a... Then he got sent off a couple of times, didn't he?
Yeah, but you would though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just retaliating, wasn't it? But,
being a youngster...
Yeah.
And getting kicked by these men...
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
I know.
I don't think they had a lot of protection from the referees.
No, definitely not. No, well, you get away with so much every days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what players like Chopper Harris were about, wasn't it? Because they could get away with stuff.
Yeah, and he did, didn't he?
And he did, yeah. And the first couple of tackles were free, weren't they? Get away with the first couple. But yeah, Bestie was. That was I can't imagine how he didn't get injured with all those tackles.
You didn't really suffer from injury, did you?
I think you find with a lot of great athletes, and Ryan Giggs has it. I've always believed that the greatest asset a great athlete has is balance. And if you've got that balance, I think you tend to stay clear of injuries. And he looks like the type of player. I hope I don't bring any bad luck on him, but he looks the type. He's got that great balance, and he rides tackles, and then consequently he doesn't get a lot of injuries. So I didn't spend too much time in places like this.
There were a few hard men knocking around in your day, though, weren't there?
Oh yeah, Chopper Harris and Tommy Smith and Norman Hunter. I mean, there was a few got stuck in, but luckily the only injury I ever had was really the one that most players suffered from, and it still does. It was cartilage, and that was the only thing. But luckily, not many serious. And also another thing about it is like the weight room. We'd never heard of weights in my day. You never did.
It's changed, hasn't it, really?
Now they've got a fully equipped gym. But that's one of the big things that has changed in football. I mean, just looking at the restaurant in there, when pre-game meals and stuff like that. We used to go off to a golf club for a pre-match meal, and in those days, every footballer had a steak for a pre-match meal, which is probably the worst thing you can eat because you don't digest it properly. I mean, my pre-game meal was a couple of sliced bananas and a bit of cornfillets.
Ahead of your time in a way, because it's the Gordon Strachan thing now.
Well,
isn't it?
that was what I always had. And it's just because it filled me up, but
just incredible. You say about the training. There's videos of them training. They got they're still wearing the old tracksuits on, like they did in the 50s, and jumping over a few hurdles and that was it. And then the cliff training ground as it was then, they built the indoor pitch, but it was like red grass surface, and it was an awful surface, like really nasty surface. But that was like cutting edge, I guess, at the time when they built that. I think late 60s. Yeah, and we played in that, and it was still the red grass when I went to the Bobby Charlton Soccer School. They took us there for one night to play in some coaching. It was amazing. But I suppose those days it was cutting edge. But compare it to now, just nowhere near, is it? Nowhere near. But apparently you loved training. He was a good trainer as well. He used to come in, do extra stuff and that as well. Obviously he didn't quite like the training later on because he didn't turn up.
Well, he had other things
to do. Other things to do, didn't he?
He was a man with many hobbies.
Unbelievable.
Especially for two people like George, who comes from Belfast and I came from Swindon. You can imagine the 60s in Manchester. It was phenomenal.
Football was all he lived for. All this other stuff that was now coming his way, and all the adulation and the girls and things were more or less throwing themselves at him. Certainly in those early days, the other stuff was just happening, and it was almost happening to somebody else.
Yeah, incredible. So we've got a couple of bits of memorabilia as well for you to show. So obviously we've got the this model here. So because Dad had one of these, didn't you? You had this, didn't you? Years ago. Not this particular one, but you had one of these.
Yeah.
Then you gave it to one of your second cousins, didn't you?
I think so, yeah.
And then I had it back when I was little. It used to be on my window ledge, and then it got dropped, and he got broke. Then he got broke in two. I
can't actually remember any of that.
No.
In fact, who are you?
I don't know. I'm Dave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm Dave.
Good reminder.
Yeah. Well, I've got to get one for him so it points the other way so he remembers who he is. But this is brilliant. This is what's it called? It's a Metoy product. Wembley Soccer Stars. I think early 70s they produced some of these, and it's fantastic. I love it. So I managed to buy one of these later on to replace the one that was broken when I was a kid. So yeah, Bestie, brilliant. So we showed in the program, and then we got a couple of other bits. This is an interesting one. So this was cutting edge at the time, early 70s, right? You can't really see the effect, but it's a 3D picture. So from the Sun newspaper, 3D gallery of football stars. They did a set of 50 apparently. But it's sort of 3D-ish, but it's still nice, isn't it? When you look at it.
Yeah.
We can see it, but you probably won't see it on the. There you go. Whee! Georgie Best. We've got a little playing card, a little card. We're not sure where that came from. It says presented free with Scorcher and Score, so we're not sure if that was a magazine or Sweets or something. I'm not sure.
I think Scorcher was a magazine.
Was it? Yeah.
I'm guessing there.
So I'll do some research, and if I'll put a picture up if I can find it. Yeah. So.
Well, while you're doing that, while you carry on, talk to the camera.
Do right then.
And I'll give it a quick look.
Okay, you give it a quick look. So I've actually got a couple of Georgie Best autographs as well. This is something that I found I got across. This is a Sportsman Evening, Lou Macari's testimonial, which was in November '82. Guest of honour, Georgie Best. And on the back, George Best has signed it along with Alex Stepney. So this is brilliant. I love things like this. So that was in the collection. And then we've got a mixture of signatures there. I'll put a picture up there because you won't be able to see it, but there's loads on there. So Bobby, Georgie Best, Dennis, and loads of others there. So this is really nice. Got a couple of other ones. This one is the George Best £5 note that Ulster Bank made available some years ago. So that's really nice. Put a picture of that up. It's Georgie Best. Excellent. Any good? You found it? He's still finding it. Look at this. That's a copy of a tag that used to be on one of his clothes that he had in his boutique. George Best, his coat. So there's things like that. But that's not an original. That's just a copy of one. That was in a book that I had. And also, obviously, when Georgie passed away in 2005, me and Rob went to the next United home game, which was funny enough against West Brom that we just spoke about. And Brian Robson was manager at the time. So obviously, really sad occasion doing it. They did a special program, which I'll put a picture up. That was the program, Farewell George. But before the game, and when they did the minute silence, everybody had a poster. So this poster. So again, I'll put a picture up, and everyone in the ground was holding that up. That's all you could see. So it was very emotional. Wonderful to be there and to share it with Rob as well. So they really good send off for Bestie on that one, what they always do.
Okay,
here we go then. What you got? Scorcher.
Scorcher was launched in September 1970. Initially it was called Score and Raw.
Score and Raw?
Yeah. And then it later emerged with, not emerged, but merged into Tiger. football magazine.
Oh yeah, Tiger, yeah. Tiger feet. Very good.
So
So,
there we go.
So there you go then, yeah. So that's what those cards was to be in then.
Yeah.
So with that, Scorcher.
Good name.
Good name, Scorcher. Oh, another one, a card. I got a Pro Set card, which was released by the Football League, and that's signed by Vesty. So that's like a bit of a treasured possession. So that's a nice one. But yeah, so loads of memorabilia there for Vesty. Oh no, one more as well. One more. Forgot about this one. This is a copy of the cancellation form of George Best's registration as a professional player for Manchester United. I put a picture up there. So signed by Vesty and then signed by Les Olive, the Secretary of United. So dated the 13th of May 1974. Cancellation of my registration as a professional.
Georgie Best sets a new scoring record for Manchester United.
Yeah.
And all we can say about Georgie, well, we can say a lot about Georgie, but thanks, George, for the memories.
Absolutely. Incredible.
What wonderful memories he's left behind.
Yeah.
And such a short life, really. But
yeah.
Look what he did in that lifetime.
Unbelievable.
Hey?
Yeah. Well, you look what he did for United in that time. You know, he finished when he was 27. But what he did was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, won the European Cup '68. Ballon d'Or winner in that year as well. You know, the goals that he scored. He made 470 appearances for United and he finished at 27. 179 goals. You know, yeah, okay, he could have gone on and done more, but that's still incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people say that, you know, it was a wasted talent. No, I think it was a wasted talent. He was there for 11 years. So, yeah, he probably mismanaged at the end. He wasn't well. Different times, he maybe got more help as well. People were making money off the back of him, weren't they? All sorts going on.
Taking advantage of it.
All sorts going on. You know, say, you know, he's like Giggsy, for instance, was a compared to Bestie, wasn't he, when he started? And Sir Alex took him under his wing, didn't he? And he was determined for him not to be affected by it all. And that did, obviously, Giggsy had his problems as well later on. But he played till he was 40, and what a player he was.
Yeah.
But he wasn't George Best.
Yeah.
No.
And Bessie was before Giggsy, a different time.
Yeah.
And of course, his mother was a drug.
Yeah, his mother was alcoholic as well.
Alcoholic.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's yeah.
So he was susceptible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, being George Best, all the temptation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you haven't got the, or if you don't want to resist, there you go.
Yeah, I think with Bestie, obviously coming in as a 17-year-old in '63, and then he had to wait a bit more time, and then he started and he played. They won the league twice, European Cup in '68. He was part of the three, you know, with Law, Best, and Charlton. Obviously, Law and Charlton were obviously older than him, weren't they? He was the youngest one in the team, wasn't he? Got to the pinnacle, won the European Cup in 1968, and then Bestie was still young, wasn't he? He was early 20s, weren't he? And from that point, you think, okay, we're going to rebuild the team around George Best, and I guess that's what he was thinking, but it didn't happen.
No.
It was like, but there were so many different reasons for that, weren't there? Because, you know, you think about what happened to the club. It was 10 years after Munich. You know, Sir Matt had done what he wanted to do, hadn't he? Sir Bobby had done what he wanted to do. You know, to do that, and you imagine the release maybe in the club from actually getting there and winning that European Cup in honour of the lads from 10 years previous. And
it was too much on his shoulders.
And then Georgie had to carry it, and he did his best.
Oh yeah.
You know, the goals that he scored, like you look at '68 season, he got a bag full goals in that season. And then he carried on. He was always getting 20 plus goals every year. And I wonder how many assists he got, because I suppose they didn't log the assists back in the day,
No,
did they?
no.
But you know, and they didn't really build on the team. They bought Willie Morgan, didn't they, the season after the European Cup? But then that was it, really. They didn't really do anything else.
It seemed to me that everyone was saying, that's it. You know, we've done what we set out to do. I was 22. You know, I wasn't going to reach my peak for another 7 or 8 years. And I listened to everyone talking about how this is it, we've achieved what we set out to achieve. And it seemed like they were talking as if it was all over. I was only starting, you know, it had only started as far as I was concerned.
And obviously, so Matt standing down and then coming back and then standing down and coming back again. And old Wilf had a go, didn't he, which was real tough for Wilf to do it, wasn't it, McGuinness? Tough times. And then obviously all the money people were making off the back of Bestie. Pressure got to him, didn't it? And then he had to have an outlet, didn't he? And that was obviously drink.
It was a bit more than drink.
And women. And gambling. Where's it all go wrong, George? Well, it's the classic.
Where did it all go wrong?
The classic story, isn't it? The hotel, I don't know which hotel it was he was in, what top class hotel. He's in the room with Miss World of the time. He's got £30,000 on the bed that he just won at the casino. And then knock on the door, room service, with a bottle of Dom Perignon. And the waiter goes, George, where's it all go wrong, George? And George Bestie's like,
big smile on his face.
Yeah, big cheeky smile like Bestie had.
I went out once with an ex-girlfriend of mine who was Miss World, and we went back to the hotel we were staying at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd been to the casino and I'd won, I think, about £30,000. And as we've walked in, I've ordered a drink from the porter, who happens to be from Belfast, and it was a toss-up who was drunk more, him or me. So I said, can we have another bottle of champagne up in the room? And he's come up, and I'm with Miss World with 30,000 on the bed. He's brought Dom Perignon up. I've given him a tip. I've given him 50 quid, which is probably more than he earned in a year. As he was leaving, he turned around and he said to me, he said, Mr. Best, he said, I've got to ask you something. And he's turned around, he's looked at this Miss World strutting around with no clothes on all the money in the bed. And he said to me, where did it all go wrong?
Yeah, just incredible. But one of the things I'm proud of as well is my middle name's George. So you name me after Bestie.
Yeah.
So proud to have that. And then our oldest daughter is called Georgia, but that's the closest I could get to George. So
yeah,
perfect. So and she's quite proud of that as well.
But she doesn't like the other middle names, does she? Like Dennis and Robert.
Well,
she objected to that, didn't she?
And Dave. Yeah, she says going to change that for Depot. Get rid of the Dave. But you, I was going to have the whole of the '68 European Cup winning team as my middle names, weren't I? But your mum stopped you at 2. So Robert,
I had to negotiate the
Robert and George. So, but that will do for me. That will do for me, Tommy, Robert and George.
The only trouble is people, your initials D-R-G, people think you're a doctor.
I know. They do. They do a couple of times, and I've just gone along with it. So, and the operations.
Check my pulse.
Yeah, you know, nothing there. So, and the operations have gone really well. So, yeah, I've only been struck off twice. So yeah, Dr. Evans. So it's yeah, quite funny really.
Now football is a pleasant game, played in the sun, played in the rain, and the team that gets me excited, Manchester United, Manchester